financial crimes that he's been charged with. And I know that to a certain extent, he had no defense to any of it, right? He admitted to the stuff at the murder trial. He admitted to it in federal court. So it didn't seem like there was an actual defense for Alec Murdaugh, but I was still surprised that he admitted it and pleaded guilty. But it is a deal that I think is controversial because it's concurrency, right? You know what concurrency means? It means he pleads guilty to this stuff and he serves the time while he's serving time for the double murder that he's already serving life for. So from my perspective, it's almost like a free crime to a certain extent that you're not getting any additional time for. It does wrap things up. You know, the victims can move on, they can turn the page, whatever. But I still don't trust him. And I think there's something in this legal maneuvering that he's doing that will, in the end, potentially, not for sure, but potentially help Alec Murdaugh down the line. And I don't know how. I haven't been able to figure it out. But I don't trust him, not one bit. Take a look. This is him in court admitting his guilt, pleading guilty, and the back and forth with Judge Newman. And as I look at him and I see him and his words, his face, again, I mean, maybe you think completely differently, but as I watch and listen to him, I think there's something else going on here. I just don't trust him. Let's take a look.
Mr. Murdaugh, aside from the count or the indictment that you are pleading guilty on the Alford, aside from that particular one, do you disagree with any of the facts stated by Mr. Waters?
I agree that I wrongly took all of that money, Your Honor, and did all of those crimes. I disagree with some of the narrative, but not the essential elements of the facts of the crimes.
And do you believe that if you were to proceed with a jury trial on these charges that you would be found guilty?
I am guilty, and yes, sir, I believe that I would be found guilty.
All right. Mr. Harpootlian and Mr. Griffin?
Nothing, Your Honor. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything else with regard to the guilty pleas that you'd like to say today, Mr. Murdaugh?
No, sir, other than I'm glad to finally be given the opportunity to plead guilty. I am happy to be pleading guilty to these charges for a number of reasons.
All right, thank you.
Is he really happy? All right. Let's get ready for tomorrow's big sentencing. Let's go down to Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, who joins us live from the Low Country tonight. Chanley, great to see you. All right. Explain to all of us this plea deal. What's going on here? What's it all about?
Well, that convicted double murderer will be back inside this Beaufort County, South Carolina courthouse tomorrow for the sentencing phase of his plea agreement, Vinny. And it's being referred to as a global plea deal as it puts all of his financial crimes into one deal. And here's the numbers, what it looks like. This is a 22-count guilty plea of the 97 financial crimes he faced before going into this plea deal. Based on 19 different indictments across 6 counties of South Carolina, where prosecutors say that he stole more than $9 million from more than a dozen clients between 2011 and 2021. And tomorrow we could hear from up to 15 of those financial crime victims inside the courtroom, where they will be able to speak directly towards Alec Murdaugh and the judge. And, of course, we'll hear from star prosecutor Creighton Waters, who, at the plea announcement hearing, gave us a preview. Here's a listen.
And I think, as we developed this case, that ultimately what it really boiled down to was such a sense of entitlement and lack of accountability that Mr. Murdaugh felt he was entitled to that money. And so he took it.
Most of Murdoch's financial crimes victims, Vinny, were clients in personal injury cases that suffered some sort of loss or a loss of a family member, including the video we showed you, of course, the housekeeper, former housekeeper Gloria Satterfield, her estate and sons. Even Murdoch's own brother is one of his victims, and of course his former law firm as well.
Oh yeah, his law partner's not happy with him. I mean, made their life a mess, and they've made good on that money, the law firm, amazingly. Okay, so this hearing tomorrow, I mean, it could go one way, but what are the other possibilities that could happen tomorrow when Alec Murdaugh is inside the courtroom with his attorneys, the prosecutor, and Judge Newman?
Well, the prosecutors and the defense attorneys agreed to a recommended sentence of 27 years, Vinny, that would run concurrent with his double murder convictions in state court. And prosecutor Creighton Waters said that he would serve 85% of that 27 years. He would waive any right to an appeal or post-conviction relief by entering in this plea. And then Judge Newman, he seemed to indicate at that plea announcement hearing a couple of weeks ago that he was inclined to accept that as a just proposed sentence, but he could also just flat out reject it, saying he doesn't think it's fair tomorrow, maybe after he listens to dozens of victim impact statements, who knows. And then the parties would have to get back together and come up with some other sort of recommendation for the sentence. But of course, Murdaugh seems to be pleased with it, as you said, and the victims, the Gloria Satterfield's family, they're pleased with the 27 years, and the attorneys for Alec Murdaugh are also pleased. Let's watch.
He's prepared to serve a long time. As he said to me as we were going into the courtroom, you know, he feels very comfortable doing prison time for crimes that he did, and he knew that he was going to prison. He does not feel comfortable doing prison time for the murders of his wife and son, for which he did not do, and we still are singularly focused on exonerating him.
And Jim Griffin today told me, Vinny, that they will not call any witnesses or present any letters in mitigation for Alec Murdaugh, but Alec himself will give another statement in front of the court tomorrow.
Oh, we'll see what he has to say this time, but no one coming into court to vouch for the character of Alec Murdaugh. Shocking. I think the people who may have done it, he murdered, so that's a part of this problem there. Let's get to that murder, double murder conviction. Obviously, there's a lot of controversy surrounding that verdict. The jury potentially tampered with, according to the defense. What's the latest there?
That's right. So we are waiting for the announcement of a date for an evidentiary hearing, which will be big news after the bombshell motion from Murdaugh's defense team a couple of months ago, alleging that he deserves a new trial over that double murder allegation and conviction because of the clerk of court, Becky Hill, allegedly tampered with the jury. They even attached some affidavits to this motion. They got the Supreme Court here, Court of Appeals here to stay his appeal on those convictions so that it can send back this matter to the lower level to have this hearing. So we also know that Judge Newman, who presided over his murder trial, has stepped down and resigned. They wanted him removed altogether. He voluntarily resigned over any post-conviction motions regarding his double murder convictions. Will he likely be a witness now? Because, again, Murdaugh's defense is alleging that even the judge heard some things that may implicate Becky Hill in misconduct, which they're hoping will overturn his double murder conviction, send it back to trial court. Other than that, then he has an outstanding federal sentence for financial crimes, plea sentence coming up at some point, as well as the outstanding criminal charges related to the roadside shooting with Curtis Eddie Smith. So still more Murdaugh to come.
And has a new judge been assigned? Have we gotten any word on which judge will oversee this hearing to determine if the jury was tampered with in the murder case?
No word yet on a new judge to oversee all of that. And of course, we have our eyes on all the filings for any new update for that. So
I wonder if all the judges get together and see who draws the short straw on that one.
Yeah.
Chanley Painter in the Low Country tonight. It's almost like going back home for Chanley, right? Spent so much time down there. Thanks so much, Chanley. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. All right, let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Al Wunsch III. Also with us in Stamford, Connecticut, criminal defense attorney Darnell Crosland. And in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, family law attorney Jennifer Brandt is with us. Great to see everyone. All right. Al, I'll begin with you. I don't trust Alec Murdaugh, but it seems with this plea, he's waiving his right to appeal. So if he gets this Hail Mary victory and somehow gets his double murder overturned, he's still going to have to do all that time. Do you agree?
Yeah, he would still have to do it. Absolutely.
Isn't there always a way? Don't defendants always have a way to file something regardless of whatever? Like they're looking for some relief even though they bargained it away?
That's post-conviction relief, which he bargained away in this plea. So, and he has to do 85%,
but really,
which of
I always feel like there's
years,
another appeal coming from the defense, always.
Well, I don't know, Vin. I tell you, 27 years, 85%, that's like 23 years of time that he'd have to spend with regards to same for stealing $9 million, which, as we see in financial crimes, is a pretty substantial sentence. Now, I don't think he's going to get away with the murder situation. And I don't think he's going to be able to pull that one off. But nonetheless, even if he does, and there's going to be a retrial, he'll be convicted again. But at least he's guaranteed 23 years in the pokey for the financial crimes that he did. And I think that the judge will accept that. And I think that it's going to move on because, like I said, 23 years for $9 million is a long time, given what we've seen in financial crimes in other courts in this country.
A lot of victims, though, 12 different victims, 99 cases that he had. So, Darnell, what do you think about the double murder conviction? Do you think that another judge will step in and say, well, wait a minute here, wait a minute, this isn't right, this isn't right? And what if this jury comes inside the courtroom and you've got some juror members saying nothing happened, and other jurors members saying, oh, yeah, the court clerk said this, this, and that?
Well, a couple of things. If I can start off, I just want to be Al for a moment. Chanley Painter said a lot more Murdaugh to come, and I was thinking if I was Al Wunsch, I would be thinking a lot more Murdaugh to come. So I wanted to get a corny joke out from the beginning. And as it relates to your question earlier, You really, Vinny was hitting on something with his plea, his plea. He said to me, I think he was putting an Alfred plea out on the low because he's very slick. So an Alfred plea says that you don't agree with the facts, but you allow them to find you guilty because if you went to trial, you would likely be found guilty. So when you listen to what he said, he was like, I disagree with a lot of the narrative, but I do believe I would be found guilty. So he almost made up his own Alfred plea in the middle of a plea, but he knew he couldn't ask for an Alfred plea under these circumstances because it would have been denied. So that was very slick of him. In terms of your question with the double murder, I think under these circumstances, this is such a high-profile case that they'll likely give them a real shake at a new trial because you can't have this man, a high-profile guy like that, and have any question about the integrity of that plea. Or that proceeding. So I think he has a good chance of getting a new trial.
Wow. All right, Jennifer Brandt, Alec Murdaugh, notorious at this point, right? One of the most famous but infamous attorneys in the country, or former attorneys at this point, right?
Ex-attorney, right.
Ex-attorney, right? What do you think he's going to say tomorrow? What do you think he's going to say?
I don't know how much more he's going to say, Vinny. He can't get up there like he did in the murder trial and say that he didn't do it because he has already pled guilty. So maybe he'll express some remorse because it seems like maybe he's turned over a new leaf based on what we saw these last couple of days. But I don't expect anything very truthful coming out of his mouth. But maybe he'll say that he's sorry for what he did and sort of admit to what he already admitted to. You know, he did say he was guilty. He didn't agree with all the narrative, but he did say that, yeah, he did take the money and, you know, that was wrong.
Al, getting back to the big picture of what motivated all of this, like, it seems like his story is, I got hooked on these painkillers, old football injury, right? Got hooked on these painkillers. Could that actually be what happened and derailed his life and his family's legacy? I mean, all those millions that he stole, could they possibly ended up in little pills that he took one at a time?
Vin, I mean, if you take
$8 million worth, $9 million worth, and that's just what he's admitting to.
Percocet on the market, okay, is $75 to $85 a pill. Okay, and if you need to do 10, you do the math on that, and it gets very high, and it does cost a lot of money. And that's why people turn to heroin, because it's the same kind of effect, but a heck of a lot cheaper.
So if you have the money, you spend the money. You instead of turning to heroin, you just pay top dollar for your drug that you need. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. That's what you're saying.
All right.
But I mean, the thing is this too. I think that it affected his ability to do what he used to do, and that, so he was not able to get the cases that he was able to get. He was not able to live the lifestyle he was used to, and then he got desperate. And I'm sure he's getting pressure at home, and I'm sure he's getting pressure from the wife, understanding why we can't afford this, we can't afford that. And then he started taking it dishonestly because he was used to living high on the hog, and now he was not getting that kind of money anymore.
High on the hog, but not hog hunting. Hey, Darnell, Jeff Hill, I want you to take a look at this. This is Jeff Hill. He's been arrested, charged with wiretap. He's the technology director at the Colton County Administration, and SLED, SLED, the law enforcement agency down in South Carolina, says they're investigating reports of misconduct. He allegedly listened in on a conversation. Oh, by the way, that's the court clerk's son.
Oh, wow.
Does that further murky up everything down there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is exactly what I'm talking about. If you got a guy that's such high profile like Alec Murdaugh, and he's saying that he didn't get a fair trial, and you just push it along, nothing to see here, folks, that's not going to play well. He has a legacy, whether you like it or not. He has a legacy in that town. And now with this new arrest connected to the clerk, he's certainly in a good position to get a new trial. Unbelievable.
All right. Al Wunsch, Darnell Crosland, Jennifer Brandt are with us the whole hour. Up next.
He murdered George Floyd. Now someone tried to take his life. We have the latest in the stabbing of former officer Derek Chauvin.
Alec Murdaugh, convicted double murderer, just accepted a plea deal from prosecutors.
How do you plead?
I plead guilty, Your Honor.
He stole the money from Tony Satterfield.
Over $1 million of his own client's settlements.
Why did you agree to that?
Because I trusted him.
This unbelievable fall from grace.
I was selfish, and I just took the money.
The Murdaugh Stolen Million sentencing. Live coverage Tuesday morning, 8/7 Central on Court TV.
George Floyd's final words on May 25, 2020 were, "Please, I can't breathe." And he said those words to Mr. Officer. He said those words to the defendant. The defendant is on trial not for being a police officer. It's not the state versus the police. He's not on trial for who he was. He's on trial for what he did.
And he was convicted. Derek Chauvin, convicted in state court, then also convicted in federal court, but chose and wanted to do his time in federal prison. That was very important to him. And we've seen this in other cases, like Alec Murdaugh, really fighting in the Low Country to try to serve his time in federal prison. Well, Chauvin was in federal prison in Tucson, Arizona, and Kenny Dar from Scripps News Tucson has an update on what happened to Derek Chauvin in federal prison in Arizona.
One of Chauvin's lawyers, Greg Erickson, who represented him during his civil trial, releasing a statement. The statement calling out the prison for a lack of communication to both Chauvin's lawyers and his family. Erickson said in the statement that he has contacted the prison 6 times and that neither he nor Chauvin's family have been given an update on his condition by the prison. Erickson did go on to say that any updates have come from media reports and that the family does not know Chauvin's condition. Erickson calling it, quote, unacceptable and a lack of institutional control. Now, this all happened Friday afternoon around 12:30 when employees at the prison responded to the incident, according to a statement from the Bureau of Prisons, which didn't directly name Chauvin in that statement. Now, no employees were hurt, and Chauvin was later taken to a local hospital for further treatment and evaluation. Now, in a statement from the press secretary of the Office of Attorney General in Minnesota to the AP, they did say they do expect Chauvin will survive. The FBI was also notified, and all visitation to the prison is currently suspended.
So the man who murdered George Floyd, someone attempts to take his life, but it appears that he will survive. Here's more from defense attorney Gregory Erickson, who gave a statement on all this. As an outsider, and I view this lack of communication with his attorneys and family members as completely outrageous. It appears to be indicative of a poorly run facility and indicates how Derek's assault was allowed to happen. How the family members who are in charge of Derek's decisions regarding his personal medical care and his emergency contact were not informed after his stabbing further indicates the institution's poor procedure and lack of institutional control. Okay, what does this all mean? What happens next? Let's bring back in our think tank Al Wunsch, Darnell Crosland, Jennifer Brandt with us. Jennifer, first, your reaction to this news.
Wow, I mean, we hear about this from time to time, that these infamous prisoners are attacked in prison, and you certainly see it in the movie. So it's almost like this is, the movie's coming to life. But just that this could happen, and there's really lack of oversight at the prison, I think it's shocking. I mean, as much as people, don't like him, still you expect that your safety will be secured when you're in the prison system. And there was some breakdown that allowed this to happen. So,
Darnell, what do you think happens next to Chauvin, right? If he's in the hospital now, may take some time to recover. We don't know exactly how serious it is. It appears his family doesn't even know at this point. What happens next, like after he recovers? What do they do with him?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is an easy one. But first thing, everyone's thinking probably that it's a racial thing. Like, he killed George Floyd. That was, polarized the entire country, the world. And yeah, that's a bad thing. But we got to remember, even police officers who weren't in cases as magnanimous as this one, prisoners don't like police officers. A lot of people are in prison because of police officers. Nothing to do with the race.
They're in prison because they committed crimes too, right?
Sometimes.
And they didn't. And they're in prison because they didn't hire you as their attorney.
Exactly. Now we're talking. And so what's going to happen here is he's going to make a motion to go to a camp. And when you go to a camp, you really could relax. It's like, a financial crimes place where there's no gates even. You could even walk out, but people don't. So whatever he can do to benefit himself now, he probably stabbed himself. So now he can actually go to a camp. That was a little bit outrageous, but
Al,
I don't see that happening.
Do you think, first of all, do you think it'll be solved? Like who did this, and do you think all of that will be made public at some point?
No, I don't think it'll be solved. I don't think he's going to say anything. I mean, that federal correctional institution in Tucson, if I'm not mistaken, I believe is a medium security federal facility. Darnell's right. I mean, cops are not like in prison. And there's also a good chance that the guards may be favoring him because he's a former police officer. So there is issues with regards to jealousy that goes on and an inherent hatred of police officers, especially, with police officers in that kind of a situation where they're accessible by prisoners. But a medium security prison is probably the best he's going to get with the conviction that he has for violating civil rights and a violation of killing, a individual. So I don't think he's going to the camp by any stretch of the imagination. I assume he will be put into a strict lockdown situation where he's going to probably be getting 1 hour of time a day where he'll be going out in a yard by himself, and then 23 hours is going to be spent in his cell with limited access to the different types of things, the library and other things, based on availability. So I think that's what's going to happen on it. I think it's terrible that his family doesn't have access to him and access to see what happened and if he's okay and everything along those lines. That's horrendous. And even though he is in prison and even though he did commit a crime and he was convicted of it,
a murder.
We have a prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment. And that's why he should be able to serve his time safely. Let him serve his time safely.
Jennifer Brandt, what are your thoughts about the co-defendants who are doing time? Do you think they need to take some action, or their representatives take some action here to potentially protect them? Or do you think this may turn out to be just the fact of being a police officer behind bars and there's no way around it?
Well, I think with regard to the co-defendants, maybe it's more about just being a police officer behind bars, because let's face it, he was the most notorious out of the group. I mean, he was the one that really represented all that happened, and he was the focus of attention. So he's the most well-known. If anybody's a target for being who they are rather than just being a police officer, it's him. So, I think the normal precautions need to be taken because they are police officers, but I wouldn't say that anything more should be done or needs to be done. Obviously, they were looking for him, and I think they did target him because of who he is. Maybe not a racial thing, but he's very well known and, probably was hated by many of the prisoners there. So.
All right, folks, we got more to get to. Up next.
He was a world-famous athlete and surgeon who is now known as an alleged wife killer. We have the latest from court as Ingolf Turk gets ready for trial.
I was awakened by my brother screaming. Pounding on the door. Bang, bang, bang.
People don't realize human beings like that can exist in the world.
He said that we'd seen his face and there was no way that he could ever let us go.
They were not going to let me go easily.
You better fight and you better get out of here.
I survived because I'm a born fighter.
I Survived, tonight at 10/9 Central on Court TV.
On the docket tonight, there he is. He's world famous, or was world famous, might be a little more infamous now. Dr. Ingolf Turk, big guy, world-renowned surgeon, now a murder defendant in Massachusetts. Unbelievable. You look at this fall from grace, where he was a big deal. He was a big shot. He was a former Olympic decathlonist. Decathlon. I don't even know what the word is for that, but the same thing that Bruce Jenner did when he got the gold medal. Did the decathlon. I don't know if you call it but anyway, here he is in court, a little bit older, still big, looks a little angry. Killed his wife. I think he's going to claim some form of self-defense at this point. I don't think he's saying someone else did it. I think it's all her fault. Unbelievable that he was on top of the world. Big athlete, big surgeon, big defendant. Julie Grant has the story.
Robotic-assisted surgery made him famous, but murder charges may make him infamous. Dr. Ingolf Turk was once head of urology at St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Brighton, Massachusetts.
Dr. Ingolf Turk is not your typical surgeon.
This promotional video from 2009 was made by St. E's parent company, Steward Healthcare.
At 6'3" with an athletic physique, it's easy to see why he was once a member of the German Olympic decathlon team.
It showcases the doctor's well-roundedness, his skill in robotic surgery, and its benefits. Fast forward to 2020, that pristine picture has drastically changed. Stewart fired the doctor in February after a scandal involving fraudulent billing. 3 months later, he's behind bars without bond for allegedly killing his wife, Katie McLean. According to police, it was McLean's ex-husband that alerted them on May 15th that she was missing. That day, police found Turk unresponsive at a nearby Residence Inn. He was revived with Narcan. Officers observing lacerations on his forehead and wrist, cuts on his arms and legs, consistent with walking through brush. The next day, police say Turk confessed to strangling McLean during a heated argument while they were drinking, claiming McLean hit him over the head with an object and he started choking her. Realizing McLean was dead, the doctor reportedly told police he panicked, dumping her body in a nearby pond. According to police and court records, the May 15th incident doesn't appear to be isolated. On December 7th, 2019, McLean alleges she thought she was going to die when Turk choked her and slammed her into their headboard. 1 week later, the couple married in Las Vegas. Then on January 11th, McLean alleges more violence, saying Turk threw her to the ground after asking if she was cheating. A few weeks later, she filed for an abuse prevention order and reported it being violated on February 5th, prompting police to charge Turk. Then on May 2nd, McLean went to court and asked that her civil abuse prevention order be vacated. She asked prosecutors to drop the criminal case as well, but they didn't, and the judge wouldn't adjust Turk's bail conditions to allow him back into the home, but Turk went anyway. Now, all those past allegations may become an integral part of the state's murder case if they attempt to establish a pattern of domestic violence being carried out by the once highly regarded surgeon.
And we kind of have a good idea of where they're going with the defense. He was in court today, and his attorney on the attack going after the victim. Take a listen.
What she had done is she went to the police because she found an email where in February, we're talking to get married in the Elvis Chapel in December. In February, he had already reached out to an attorney to file for divorce. The attorney sent him an email. She saw the email. She calls the police, says that he assaulted her, gets a restraining order, gets a harassment prevention order against him. That's when the police served him and threw him out of his own home. So that's the relevance, because she did the same thing to Mr. Rocha. She accused him of these various offenses. I have copies of all the court documents that show null pros after null pros. She reached out to the DA's office, threatened that if they didn't dismiss the case, that she would go further than not cooperating, and she would recant. This is a woman who knew how to weaponize the system. She knew how to extort people into what she wanted. You know what she wanted, Judge? She wanted ownership interest in the house.
All right. I don't know where that defense is going, but it's why they want to get certain documents and records in the case. Big motion hearing February 7th of next year, and then the trial is set for the springtime, folks. April 2024, Massachusetts versus Dr. Ingolf Turk. Let's bring back in our think tank, Al Wunsch, Darnell, Crosland, Jennifer Brandt. This looks like a case, Darnell, where this massive former Olympic athlete is going to claim some form of self-defense.
It's tough. Obviously, the presentation was amazing. I like the presentation. It kind of gives us a flavor of what this relationship was about, and it sets up a motive, if you would, a financial motive that she had to not kill her husband, but to get him pushed out the way. That's the part where I'm not really connecting. Even though she might have wanted to push him out the way financially, get him out the house, they're not showing how she tried to kill him, or whether she was going to poison him, or whether she was abusive to him. They just said that she wanted money. So they're not tying up how was she trying to kill him. So that's going to be a big hurdle to overcome. But I think it's a good start in showing who she was and tarnishing her character. It's a good go.
Jennifer Brandt, this looks like it's one that started in your court, ended up over in the criminal court, right? I mean, it looks like these two married, things happened quickly, and things were breaking up quickly.
Yeah, but I totally disagree with Darnell on this one, because I think it was a bad defense. I mean, where are they going with this? So what? She was angry. She wanted to get a divorce. I mean, that's what we're hearing. She manipulated the system. A lot of people do in divorce matters. But he killed her. I mean, and so where does that come in? Well, you know, he didn't want to share his money. I mean, I think it's setting him up in a way more than it making her look bad. I mean, she was the victim. She's the one that ends up dead here, and there seems to be no explanation other than, you know, maybe she wanted a divorce or found out that he wanted a divorce and wanted to get some money from him. I mean, I don't see where that makes a connection with her ending up dead, other than here's a big guy who got real angry at her and, you know, maybe did something that now he regrets. But I don't see it at all, and I think it's going to be an interesting case.
Al Wunsch?
We agree with each other.
And I'll tell you,
Go ahead.
I'm just fascinated by the fact that he's a former East German athlete. Okay, because you never hear that anymore. And Ben, you and I grew up with the Olympics, and the East Germans were such a disciplined, dangerous, and well-conditioned bunch of athletes. And to see him that to this day still in the kind of shape that he's in is just fascinating. As soon as I heard East German decathlon, I mean, that's just, it's a remarkable story about him that, then becoming a surgeon to the point where he is as famous as he is. And then to do this stupidity is just unbelievable to me. But I mean, I just love hearing that East German Olympian. You never hear that ever. You'll never hear that again. Since 1990, there has been no East German.
Sound like we got a good juror in Al. We need to get a couple more.
Look at that. And but I mean,
this is coming from a.
Go ahead.
This is coming from a man down there. Okay, we all were together. Well, Jennifer wasn't there, but I got a chance to be on the couch with this man, and I learned very early on that is actually a clip bow tie that he's wearing.
Oh, come on, Al.
And you can see the little rust stains on the collar. Okay, so there you go. Oh yeah, that's not the one you were wearing on the couch. Let's see the rust stain on there, huh? For God's sakes.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness. All right. Al Wunsch, Darnell Crosland, Jennifer Brandt, staying with us. Darnell needs a little time to retie his tie, so up next.
In tonight's Tank Takes, a Florida woman calls police to report a theft. Her Florida man allegedly took her weed, then she gets arrested. And tonight we're wondering, is she a criminal or a victim?
There was pounding on the door. Bang, bang, bang.
He said that we'd seen his face and there was no way that he could ever let us go.
I survived because I'm a born fighter.
I Survive. Next on Court TV.
Convicted murderer Alec Murdaugh pled guilty to 22 counts of financial crimes.
I was selfish, and I just took the money.
The Murdaugh Stolen Million Sentencing. Live coverage Tuesday morning, 8/7 Central on Court TV.
Welcome back. Time for tonight's Tank Takes, where we take a look at the world of crime and justice and some stories that just don't fit into the rest of the show. Still with us, our think tank, Al Wunsch, Darnell Crosland, Jennifer Brandt. Are you ready?
Ready to go?
Ready.
All right, let's get to our first story. I'm calling this one, I Need My Weed. A Florida woman, not a Florida man, but a Florida woman, was at a Best Western hotel and called police because her friend, a Florida man that she had met the week before, allegedly stole her weed. And while there was only half a gram of it, she had 2 outstanding warrants in her name. And the 23-year-old woman, who's also like a college golfer, had also been arrested for DUI last year, as well as punching her father in the face last year, ends up getting arrested. And I'm wondering, Al Wunsch, is she the criminal in all this, or is she the victim?
Well, then, I think that this golf genius would probably like a mulligan on this phone call, okay? Because it was not a very smart move to be calling the police because someone stole weed. So I'm going to call mulligan and go right from there.
Darnell, who are you supposed to call if someone steals your weed?
Your supplier. Just get some more. I mean, why would you call the police?
I guess. Jennifer Brandt, what do you think happened to this woman? Like, how do you get to the point where you are at a motel in Florida from being a college golfer and all of a sudden your boyfriend steals your weed and you're calling police? Like, how do you get to that point?
I think he used too much weed.
See, there it is. And they're trying to legalize this stuff across the country, folks, but not in Florida.
But Vinny, if I was Al, I would say, how do you weed out the silly people from the smart people?
Oh,
like that?
Please.
Let's get to our next story. I'm calling this one, Piggly Wiggly Rode All the Way Home. This happened in Alabama. It was not exactly a high-speed chase, maybe a low-speed chase, because I think The fastest you can go is about 2.5 miles per hour. A man went to a Piggly Wiggly supermarket, great supermarket, a lot of them down in the South, especially in Alabama, and didn't steal any food, I don't think. He just stole one of those electric shopping carts that you hop on to go shopping around the Piggly Wiggly, and he rode the thing all the way home. They found out where he lived, and they went in that direction. They've now charged him with first-degree theft. I'm wondering, in this case, Darnell, what is your defense?
Oh, this is so easy, Vinny. I mean, you threw me a softball. And I have a photogenic memory of the statutes. So larceny is a transitory taking of the personal property of another with the intent to permanently deprive. You have to have all the elements. So they have to show he intended to permanently deprive. So my defense would be that he was just getting home. He was going to do what he had to do and he's going to bring it back. They're not going to be able to show intent, and so therefore not guilty. Keep the record going.
Al?
Then I'm going to use this defense. It's the newest Marvel geriatric superhero known as Captain Scooter the Commuter. His shopping cart motto, I'll get there eventually.
Let's get to our final one, finally. Okay, calling this one the Disney Streaker. A naked man at Disney apparently took off his clothes, doing a little bit of streaking. We've got some video for you.
Oh my gosh. Idiot, in front of all these kids. Yeah.
Apparently streaking through It's a Small World ride, by the way. We've got a shot of him after being caught. And my question to you, Jennifer Brandt, is it really a small world after all?
Only Mickey knows, Vinny. I don't know.
Darnell.
Yeah, it is definitely a small world because I wasn't in the pool.
Oh.
Al, final word tonight.
Moon River, I see that vertical smile. But wait a minute, Vinny. This just in. Our small world is in a collision course with Uranus. And just remember, there's just one moon and one golden sun. Thank you.
Al Wunsch, Darnell Crosland, our think tank. Great to see you all. Thank you so much. Unbelievable. Wow. Had to get out of that quickly before we go.